Hey guys, I'm Dominique. Welcome back to my channel. So recently I was asked, what's the typical work schedule in the medical laboratory? Let's talk about it. The hospital laboratory stays open around the clock. So this is a 24-hour a day, 7 days a week work environment. So you can expect shift style work to ensure that the laboratory has 24/7 coverage. Everything I'm going to mention in this video is just based on my personal experience. Every lab has a different way of scheduling, so just take these schedule details as a possibility, but you are not in any way limited to any schedules I may mention, because there's a lot of different hours that someone can work in the hospital. So it's just a matter of how flexible the management is. So there's many combinations of schedules where you can work 8 hours, 10 hours, or 12-hour shifts that can fall on 7 days a week, including weekends and holidays. One possible schedule you may encounter is night shift. I entered the field as a night shift generalist and I worked 5 days a week for 8-hour shifts a night. My schedule was Sunday night through Thursday nights, 11 p.m. to 7 a.m. Night shift is probably the easiest shift for a new grad to find a job and get their foot in the door so that you can begin gaining experience out of school. That is because there is usually more openings for off shifts, since those are the shifts that are harder to staff. My night shift consisted of me and 2 other techs. We were assigned our own departments to work, and we rotated out to different departments routinely. I was trained as a full generalist, so I could rotate out for a new assigned department whenever needed. So I could be assigned blood bank or microbiology or chemistry or even hematology, coag, urinalysis, and body fluids. I will say the general laboratory is a great way to gain skills because you're not doing the same thing day in and day out all the time. If you are planning to be a generalist, it is usually normal to rotate out to other benches and departments routinely so that you can maintain your skill set. Because one thing I've learned is that things change fast in the lab. Protocols get updated, new analyzers come in, new testing is added, and it can be a little uncomfortable when you've been out of an area for too long. So that is the benefit of being a generalist, is that you rotate out routinely to each department. I did enjoy night shift because I had a chance to work independently in my own department to run all the benches. It's just me, my analyzers, my specimens, and I'm pretty much chilling. I gained a lot of critical thinking skills because we didn't have management on site. If we ran into problems, I troubleshooted myself. I gained skills with fixing analyzers, resolving network issues, hardware issues, troubleshooting specimens. Definitely a lot of blood bank confidence and just overall tech experience was gained for me working on nights. Like, I used a lot of my resources, and if I could not resolve it on my own, or it was a decision like above my pay grade, then I reached out to management who were on call overnight. They just were not with us on site during the night shift, if that makes sense. And not every place is like that. There are hospitals that have off-shift supervisors, but I know that I gained a lot of decision-making skills by working off-shift in my situation. But one downside of night shift is that there are not many people outside of healthcare who have the same working hours and same time off as you. So it can be an isolating shift to work. If you are the type of person that does not do well with being by yourself a lot, I would not recommend doing night shift unless you are very flexible with your sleeping. Luckily, I did have 2 very good friends who also worked night shift at my hospital, so it was easier for me to plan things with them on our off time because we had the same exact night shift schedule. If I wanted to make plans with family or other friends, I had to accommodate for everyone else's sleep schedule because they did not work night shift. So that meant that I'd go without sleep for very long periods of time if I wanted to spend time with my family and friends. So consider people in your life, your everyday life, and how your job hours can affect how much time you get to spend with your loved ones, or time to yourself if you want to go back to school or get into hobbies. That's really where work-life balance comes in at, is your work schedule. But that's something you have to decide on for what is right for you. And after thinking about all of that, and that's still worth the night shift differential for you, then have at it. Now I work a day shift in the laboratory, still in a hospital setting, but I'm in a specialty. I now work 12-hour shifts 3 days a week. I usually go in at 7 a.m. and stay till 7 p.m. My current day shift is just microbiology department, and it is made up to staff of around 9 to 10 benches. And that includes our lab assistant. So it's a whole different experience for me having so many people on shift at one time, plus leadership around. So it was a kind of like a culture shock for me when I came from a night shift with only me in my one department, plus 2 other techs and a lab assistant to run our entire hospital laboratory. At my day shift, we are each assigned our own bench within the microbiology department. So one day I may be assigned urine cultures, another day I'm doing blood cultures, next I may come in for molecular virology bench, another day I might be doing primary setup, so on and so forth. We routinely rotate out benches within the microbiology department, but the time I get to spend at each bench is different since it's 12-hour shifts. We only work 12 days, max like 15 days a month. I might work one bench and not rotate back to it for 1 to 2 months before I'm back at that bench again. And that all depends on staffing too, and availability and scheduling and stuff. But yeah, I don't really have any cons for day shift that I have experienced so far in regards to the schedule. 12 hours can be a bit tiring sometimes, but it does depend on the workload and the bench. I actually maintain a way better sleep schedule doing 12-hour shifts because I have a higher chance of getting tired by the end of the day. I get off at 7 p.m., eat my dinner by 8 p.m., and I'm in the bed by 9:30, 10 o'clock. I routinely get a minimum of 6 hours of sleep, even on my off days. Previously, when I worked night shift, I was running on fumes and 4 hours of sleep 5 days a week, and I would pay for it by being so tired that I would literally sleep away my 2 nights off, which was my entire weekend. Another benefit to the 12s is that I get 4 days off work every week. So yeah, I've had a nice adjustment to day shift schedule for me. I'm able to have personal time for my hobbies, have time for school again. I'm able to handle my doctor's appointments, and allergy immunotherapy is way easier on me now with my work schedule. And I love that I have more time for traveling, all without having to conflict with my work schedule. I honestly really enjoy 12-hour shifts in terms of work-life balance, but I cannot speak for day shift in regards to like working 8 hours or 10-hour shifts because I haven't done it. Although I did do an 8-hour shift schedule when I was in clinicals 2 years ago for 4 to 5 days a week, but I didn't care for it. If there was a hypothetical new job that required me to work 5/8 on day shift, then I know I can do it because I did it in clinicals. But I will continue to prefer 12-hour shifts for the foreseeable future, hopefully until I finish grad school. So no one can really tell you what shift you should work. Go with the one that's best for you and your priorities, like either personal work-life balance or gaining work experience, for example. I don't know if I would have preferred working day shift out of school. I feel like night shift allowed me to develop independence and critical thinking in the laboratory. I feel like day shift would have handicapped me because leadership is there and I always have someone else to make decisions for me. Even now, I have way less responsibility because if I run into a problem, someone is always there to help, whether it's another tech, biomedical services, field service engineers, supervisors, managers, like everybody is here working alongside me. Night shift, on the other hand, requires resourcefulness and problem solving, which allowed me to build my decision-making skills because I didn't have leadership around to divert all my problems to. We didn't have biomedical services either at night to help. So I was a troubleshooter for analyzers. I was on the phone with service and IT. I was the point of contact for issues between floors and doctors and stuff. And sometimes I was shift lead. So I had way more responsibility on night shift. We did have a pathologist on call. I've only ever had to call them one time because of an irate doctor. But yeah, outside of that, I dealt with the majority of the problems within my scope of practice. I don't know, but I do feel like I gained more experience on nights because of those critical thinking situations. And so yeah, that kind of experience is something to consider if you're after, like building your resume and stuff. But again, I'm just gonna say choose a schedule that provides you with the most work-life balance and happiness because work is not everything. I hope that we all are working to live and not living to work. So definitely go with the schedule that allows you to still live your life outside the laboratory. And last shift details is for PRN positions or pro rata, where you work for a hospital as needed. I work off shift PRN now so that I can keep up with my generalist skills and help out at my old hospital when I can. My only requirement is that I work every month, usually 1 to 3 shifts a month. The difference with PRN and full-time or part-time is that the hours you work will vary greatly depending on the need of the company. If you are full-time, you know you're gonna have at least a minimum 36 to 40 hours a week, guaranteed, no questions asked. With PRN, there's no guaranteed hours per week unless there's like really bad staffing issues, but I just work with the management to determine the need and my availability to see what days they can fit me in for the schedule. Also, there's 3 different shifts that I work there. During the week, I can do evening shift 3 p to 11 p.m. and night shift 11 p to 7 a. And they also have weekend staff. So if I do work weekends, I can do 7 p to 7 a because the weekend night shift is 12 hours. So the current need at the company is off shift, of course, and that's where I volunteer my extra time. Since I only work 3 12s at my main job, you know, I have extra time to keep up with my generalist skills when I'm free, which is a great thing for me since I'm still a developing professional. I would suggest getting a PRN job if you're new out of school and you choose to work in one area only. Even though I'm in microbiology now, there's still other departments that I like and I want to keep current with those skills, like blood bank, for instance. Those are not skills I want to risk losing for career development in my future. As far as breaks, each of my jobs, I get 1 30-minute lunch break if I work 8 hours and 1 30-minute lunch break and a 15-minute break if I do a 12-hour shift. I am one to take late breaks. So if I work 12 hours, I will begin work at 6:30 in the morning, but I probably won't eat lunch until 3 with 4 hours left in the shift. If I work 8 hours, I begin work at 11 p.m. I don't know what it is about 4 hours left in the shift, but I really do just go eat when I start to feel tired so that I have enough energy to get through the rest of the shift, and that is usually when I only have 4 hours left. As far as holidays, again, hospitals are open all year long, 24/7, so that means that as clinical staff, we are usually required to work holidays. I do have mandatory holidays that I'm scheduled to work for each year. I am required to work 1 minor holiday and 1 major holiday. So for this year, I worked 4th of July as my minor and New Year's as my major. I think this past year in 2022, I don't know what happened, but I worked a lot of holidays. I worked Memorial Day and MLK Day as my minor holidays. And they got me for the majors too because I was scheduled for Thanksgiving, Christmas, and New Year's. The only benefit is that holidays come with incentive pay as well, but working holidays kind of sucks because I worked Christmas and New Year's the year before that in 2021 as well. So since 2021, I have missed time with my family and friends 2 years in a row around the holiday season, but that's what I was scheduled to do, and that's the commitment that is made when choosing to work as clinical staff in hospitals. I'm pretty sure that you've probably heard there is a lab staff shortage across the country, so plenty of opportunities for jobs. And if your job is short of staff, there is plenty of opportunities for overtime if that's your thing and you want to make extra money. Overtime is basically you working over your main required hours. If you're part-time or full-time, you can get a higher rate of pay per hour as an incentive usually. Sometimes an additional critical pay if the health system offers it. I try to keep it minimal, so I do not push myself to take on more hours because it's a struggle just doing my bare minimum hours a week, to be honest. But you know, I understand that like staffing isn't always going to be perfect, so I do help out when I can. But you know, in reality, I really do enjoy my time off of work. Plus I'm in school, so I have other obligations too that are my priorities, and they're always going to come first. Previously, in my first job, I actually really did learn my lesson on when to say no. My first job voluntold me to do overtime like every week for almost a year, and it was the biggest toll on my body. I was doing every bit of 50 to 60 hours a week, and I'll never do that again, especially now that I'm doing 12-hour shifts and working night shift PRN. It's already hard on me because it's a lot of flipping sleep schedules. So I try to put my health first and do what makes me happy. So I do pick up extra hours when I can help out, and it's feasible for me. But it's all voluntary, so overtime should never feel like you are being forced to do it, and I learned my lesson from that. Before I entered the laboratory field, I've always worked independently and never in a team setting. My schedule was up to me. It never depended on anybody else showing up to work. In the laboratory, my schedule experience has been pretty team heavy and dependent on other people showing up to work. So shift work has been an adjustment for me overall since beginning work in the field. Short staffing, call outs, and no-shows can really affect how well or bad your shift is going to go. I think that I prefer the 12 so that I have more days off to myself. If I'm already at work, I might as well stay at work a little longer if that means that I can have 4 days off work instead of 2 every week. And when I worked night shift, I was every bit of like 25 to 27 shifts a month, and it's only average 30 days in the calendar, y'all. So now that I work 3 12s and a PRN job at max, I work 15 shifts a month. The longevity of that for me is it allows me to do so much more in my off time. So you can imagine the time that I'm getting back to live my life outside of work. And while I'm still in my 20s, I want to enjoy it and travel and stuff, not work it all the way. I want to be able to go on vacations and go home and see family. I'm back in school again, like I keep saying, and none of that would be possible if I was still doing 5/8 on night shift. The only way I could really see myself changing this schedule is if I decided to go further into leadership, which would probably look like 5/8, 7, you know, like a more like a 9 to 5 type job, or something where I got a job off the bench that was salary. Other than that, I hope to work these 312s for the foreseeable future, at least until I finish graduate school and have my master's in hand, because this schedule works really well for taking classes. So yeah, I hope you found this video helpful. This was my typical work schedule explained as a medical lab scientist. I'd also love to hear perspectives about the pros and cons of the shifts that you guys work, if you are in the field, whether it's days, evenings, or nights. But yeah, I'm curious to hear how it's going for you, what you like, what you don't like, any tips and advice for other people that may be starting a job for that work schedule. Just feel free to comment below. And if you have more questions and video ideas about medical lab science, please comment below. If you want to follow my journey in the lab, subscribe to my channel and stay tuned for future videos in the future. I'll see you guys next time.